Hey, pal. You ready? Can you pick me up at 6:30?
I'm here.
Too late.
I'll go for 5 minutes. Move it. You're killing me. You know what, Dad? I'm good.
It may be quite a while before he's ready, but our Subaru Legacy will be waiting for him.
It's not just a sedan, it's a Subaru.
University Subaru.
The way growing!
Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Wednesday, June the 3rd. Today we're going to talk about preserving our food. Now this might be June and you're not harvesting the tomatoes and the pickles yet, but that'll be coming soon. Vera Massey, MU Extension, good to have you here, Vera.
Good to be here.
Now you've got classes coming up, right?
I do. You know, it's amazing how many people want to preserve foods. And it used to be years ago, if you ask people why, they'd say, oh, to save money. It's probably not we're going to save a lot of money unless we have a big bumper crop of foods. But what I hear people say now is they want control over what goes in that food.
Yeah. You know, when I was growing up, it went without question. We preserved as much food as we could. My mother would put up literally hundreds of quarts of tomatoes, green beans. We would freeze all of our sweet corn.
Yes, that's the way I like it too.
Yeah. Peach pies, we had peach trees, and she would make 50 or 60 peach pies, put them in the freezer, so then all during the winter, anytime come over, you pull out the peach pies. But people are wanting to do this again.
They are wanting to do it, and I think they may not be preserving on the scale as what maybe we recall growing up. I think the other thing that people are liking to do is to use it for gift giving. You know, that maybe they'll make some jams or a special pickle or salsa. And for me, I mean, food's always a big hit.
Right.
And what's really great about preserving foods is that you can freeze them, you can dry them, or you can can them. And when people freeze and dry, that actually takes less time, less equipment. You have big investments. You need a freezer.
Right.
And really in Missouri, because of that high humidity, to dry outdoors, you're putting more moisture in. So I think having a food dehydrator is the route to go.
I've never tried drying food.
Oh, I'll tell you what, strawberries, I just dried some again the other day. They are so good. And then just to drop some in cereal in the winter is great.
So if you dry your food, if you dry strawberries, how do you keep them through the winter?
Well, one of the things, you want to make sure enough moisture is out of them or else they could get mold. Even when I use a dehydrator, the volume decreases so significantly because a lot of these, fruits and vegetables are pretty much high water content. I put them in freezer bags and still pop them in the freezer.
Okay.
But I could have many cups of fresh berries, but when I dry them, it's in a small package.
Right.
Then you don't have to worry about mold.
Are the nutrients still there?
You lose some nutrients, particularly the water-soluble ones. But some of the things that I like to dry more in the fall would be apples. Apples are great. If you have a lot of onions or red peppers or jalapenos, you can dry them to use in cooking. A lot of times, and I don't do it as much now without children, but to make fruit leathers with pureed fruit. And it doesn't taste like the commercial fruit leathers that are kind of pumped up with a lot of corn syrup sweeteners, but just to puree fresh fruit. So like strawberries and banana is good, and it's a nice snack if you're going to go hiking, good to have. But I store all of my dried foods in the freezer after they've been dried.
Is it better as far as nutrition is concerned to freeze your food or to can it?
Well, they're fairly comparable. Of course, having produce that has not been sitting around long before you can it or freeze it. But you do have some of the water soluble that are lost, but they still retain well. And of course, fresh is generally best if it's of the highest quality. But yeah, the nutritional value is still there.
Yeah. So tomatoes, if you free, and obviously you can't freeze the tomatoes and then expect to take the tomato out and slice it and make a salad.
No.
You're going to make the sauce.
Sure,
with
you
it.
can make sauce. So even if you don't want to get into home canning, which does require a bigger skill set, you could still skin the tomatoes and core them and chop them up and freeze them to be used in a sauce. But you have to remember, because they're kind of fresh, to get the flavor developed, you'd want to cook them longer than had they been canned or more cooked.
Now, what I do with the tomatoes when I freeze them, I cut them, I wash them, cut them, put them in big pots, and I just bring them to a boil, and then I freeze it that way. When I want, is that okay to do that?
Sure,
well,
just making sure they cool them off so you don't retain the heat. You know, one of the challenges, and corn is a prime example, some people like to freeze on the cob, but that cob retains a lot of heat. And if we don't get things chilled down quickly, they can actually not cool quick enough, freeze quick enough in the freezer, and you can get some microorganisms growing.
I didn't realize that.
And yes, and that's been a problem. I had some individuals who get together as a family, and they cut even the corn off the cob, and they had this idea that they would package them in freezer bags, stack them in little bigger plastic bags, so they would have all their corn together in the freezer.
But they weren't cooling off in the middle.
That's right. And so when they got ready to eat it, they had called and said, "Oh, it has a sour smell." Well, it had fermented because they didn't cool it. So when you're freezing, make sure that you sort of space it out to the freezer, because you want it to freeze within 24 hours.
Okay, so if you're freezing, make sure that you've chilled it down and it freezes quick. You're going to have classes in July on preserving food?
Yes, there'll be a class. They'll be on Wednesday evenings. One will be on freezing and drying, one on water bath canning, and one on pressure canning. So you could sign up for 1, 2, or all 3.
So how do people go about signing up for your class?
I would suggest that they contact our University Extension Center in Boone County, and that is 573-445-9792.
9792, and operators are standing by right now. They have a whole bank of operators.
We do.
15 or 20 of them, right?
Yep.
Right? So call 445-9792 if you're interested in taking that class.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. I demo, and you get samples to try food, so you know that, hey, I want to try this. I want to make that freezer jam.
That's University Extension, and the classes are on Wednesday evening in July.
Starting in July, and you need to sign up.
445-9792. They're there. If lines are busy, hang up and dial again.
That's right.
All right, Vera. Always a pleasure to have you here. Vera Nichols. Tomorrow, St. Louis Dairy Council. We're going to talk about June being National Dairy Month and the League of Women Voters. Our program directed by Travis McMillen. Reynolds Journalism Institute. Audio is Pat Akers from KBIA. Our floor director, Lowell Thomas, and our assistant producer and guest coordinator, Uncle James Mauser.